Hey guys, it's the Hero series again from my YouTube channel, and I've got someone amazing today. It's Georgie from largehope.com, and she's an animal lover. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks. How are you doing?
Thanks very much. I'm really excited to see you here because I have known you now for about maybe 6 months, a year, and even started to do working together. Tell us a bit about your background. What have you been going through to get to this point?
Yeah. Well, I actually started out originally as a dietitian, and then I worked in nutrition for a pharmaceutical company, and then I decided I wanted to do something totally different. And so in 2008, when like the financial crisis hit, it was like a month before it hit, I got a job as a mortgage broker.
Wonderful.
Which is about the worst profession you could possibly have been in for that particular crisis, because it was kind of caused by the mortgage industry. And so the interesting thing about it was that there was very little work for me to do. Like the business that employed me, they went from, I don't know, 30 leads a month down to 2. And so my job then became marketing. And so I had to go into the head office and find out all the different marketing strategies that they could use. And these marketing strategies, they had used some of them before and they'd gone really well, but of course they weren't working either. The only thing that worked was some of the stuff that I did on their website, which was it was a franchise website. So they only had one page on that website that you could actually edit or do anything with. But that actually brought in some leads. And so I decided to do an internet marketing course. And I kind of discovered that I really liked that much better than mortgage broking anyway. And the mortgage broking company couldn't afford to keep me on. And so then I applied for all kinds of jobs and ended up getting some work doing search engine optimization for this. It was a guy who owned a registered training organization. And so I worked for him for a couple of years and then decided to set up my own SEO business. So through the financial crisis, I actually ended up finding something that I really like doing.
What do you love about it, Georgie?
Yeah, I love the fact that you can take somebody's website and you can see in the data that they're going up in the rankings and that you're getting more traffic to their website. I just love that. I love seeing the results. I love the fact that there's, that it kind of is a bit like a recipe in that there's all these different tasks that like need to be done on everyone's site when they come in. Depending on the site, the recipe can be quite different. It might need, like a lot more flour on that one, a lot more butter on that one, or whatever. But in the end, it's really kind of the fact that you can do the work and then see the results. And I saw an article once that was written about how being a dietitian and being an SEO person was similar in some way. And I was like, that'll be interesting. And basically what they were saying was that, the similarities is that, you've got to do all this work to kind of get a result. And often the result takes a long time to get. It's not like an immediate thing. But the biggest advantage of doing the SEO is that you're doing that for them and getting them the results rather than when you're with as a dietitian where the client has to do the work, sort of thing. So
yeah, I love that. So it's kind of done for you and you don't allow them to mess it up too much.
That's right. Yeah, look, most of my clients are not interested in at all in doing that side of it. They're not interested at all in knowing how to do anything on their website or how to do SEO, and that works perfectly for me. I mean, if somebody does want to know how to do it, then I have taught people to do SEO on their website. But yeah, the majority of people kind of, they want to do whatever their thing is, what they love doing. And yeah.
Time in your life when you felt powerless or lack of self-worth at all?
Yeah, look, I think certainly around the that financial crisis time, because not only was it difficult because of the fact that, you know, I had this job and that was kind of stressful because obviously everything had changed and they couldn't really afford to keep me on. But also at that time, I actually owned 4 properties, but like the bank actually owned the 4 properties. And so when I actually, you know, it wasn't like a quick transition going from losing that mortgage broking job to getting the SEO job. It was about, it probably took about a year, and I did other work in between, cleaning work or, you know, some whatever work that I could get. And so during that time, particularly with the property side of things, because when you've got 4 properties, I was living in one, I moved out of that and rented it out. But it's very difficult to sell, right, when it's in a downturn time. And so, yeah, my expenses were like way more than what my income was. My parents had to lend me 30 grand or else I had to sell 3 houses for like less than what I bought them for. But one house I managed to keep, which was only because of, you know, my parents lending me that money. So,
and if we look back, I would just want to ask, what were the 3 things that got you through this crisis, I could say, where your life was just collapsing? 3 key things that really you think has been essential for your breaking through or breaking out.
Yeah, well, it was definitely, there was some people that I met, like I had somebody who I was working with who was like a life coach, and there was kind of like these sort of, you know, basically free business meetings that I was going to. And the people there were just so positive and happy, which I was not at all, right? And so I think just putting myself in an environment around these people who were so positive and happy and life was going really well for them just kind of gave me that space to have a break from, you know, my life that wasn't going so well. So that was a big thing. The second thing was learning to have gratitude, because I'd never really had gratitude before that. So learning to be sort of grateful for the simple things. And at one point in my life, I got this ingrown toenail when I'd gone, because I lived in the UK for 9 years and I'd come back to Australia to live, but I kind of went back there for a holiday, and or actually I think it was a work conference in Prague, but I went to the UK on the way back, and I got this ingrown toenail, and it was so painful. Like I couldn't walk, and then I had to get a flight back early because it was quicker to get into a podiatrist in Australia than it was for anyone to treat me in the UK. But on the flight home, like I had to be in a wheelchair, and it really just made me, that was the thing that I could use and kind of go back to that moment and go, remember that? Remember how horrible it was when you couldn't walk? be grateful that you can walk, be grateful that you can hear, that you can see. So I use kind of like very basic things to be grateful for, because I didn't really feel grateful for anything else.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
You mentioned environment, getting environment. You had a coach, someone outside of you really helping. You mentioned having gratitude, which is bringing you in the present moment. Wonderful. Plus, you said, having changes perspective. That absolutely could change everything. Like, always look for someone who has got it 10 times worse than you, and then it looks like easy. And
yeah.
who are your clients, or who are you helping with your business?
Yeah, so most of my clients are family-run businesses, and they are a lot of them are in the home improvement space. So building decks, fixing roofs, automatic gates, that kind of thing. And then I have a lot of professional services as well. So counselors, chiropractors, dentists, accountants, that kind of thing. So where they're in a very specific location. So the kind of businesses that I work with are ones where if someone was going to search in Google, they would normally search with a location in their search. So they'd search blah, blah, Brisbane, blah, blah, Sunshine Coast, blah, blah, Gold Coast, something like that. And that's what I specialize in, is getting the clients to businesses that want people, that want them in a certain area, if that makes sense. So obviously, if you're a chiropractor and you're in a suburb of Brisbane, then it's anyone who's going to search with that suburb is going to be an ideal client, kind of thing. Whereas if you're the home improvement businesses, they will often cover, the Gold Coast, Brisbane, and the Sunshine Coast. So then we have to make sure that the website can pick up anyone who's searching with any of those locations.
Amazing. And are you serving without boundaries, really? You could actually work with people in any country, so you work remotely? Yeah.
Yeah, I could. I mean, all my clients are in Australia, but I could work with any country because it's the same. No.
All right. So let the borders collapse.
Yeah.
Who knows how big you're going to grow? And have you got any tips or tricks to people who have not the best results in views or number of visitors on their pages?
Yeah. Well, look, certainly when it comes to these kind of businesses that I'm describing, where they want people, really from their local area to be their clients, one of the things that I come across sometimes with websites is that they don't actually have their address on the website. And sometimes that will be because they work from home and maybe they don't want to put their address on the website. But other times they actually have like a clinic where someone's supposed to come to, that the address will be on the contact us page. Sorry, I might not have made that clear. They don't have their address in the footer of the website. Sometimes they don't have it at all. And then you're kind of like, how is anyone supposed to find you? But that's, if it's somewhere that does actually have a specific office, then often it's just on the contact page. But when people are looking at a website, they often kind of scroll up and down, especially on a phone, and really they want to know where you are without having to go to the contact us page. And for Google, it's really important that it's on every single page of your website, so that if someone searches, blah blah Noosa, you want to make sure that you're coming up with whatever page on your website.
Wow, I'm going to write this down.
So that's critical for those kind of businesses. Whereas if you have an international business, then your address might be irrelevant. Or if you have like a blog that's on apples, then your address is irrelevant. So there's certain thing, and this is the thing with SEO, and often when people read information about it, is that it doesn't often say this is relevant for these kind of websites and not really relevant for others. So, you'll often hear people saying, oh, you need to have a blog on your website and you need to, blog so many times a month or whatever. Where for the majority of my clients, there's very limited stuff that you can write blogs about. And really when people start, like if someone wants, an automatic gate, they know they can't do it themselves.
Yeah. And
they're not really interested in searching for information about it. They just want to search for the company that's going to install it,
So, and are you taking just small discovery calls with people who are interested to learn more about their own website? So, yeah,
for sure. Like if people actually want to talk to me about their website, like no problem at all. The majority of my clients come through referrals from web developers, marketing people, business consultants, that kind of thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because often the client will go to them first. So SEO isn't usually the thing that people want first, if that makes sense. So they will usually already have a marketing company, a web developer, or someone like that, who then tends to refer them to someone that they trust. So, yeah.
And your, let's say, preferred way of to be contacted is your website, georgiehope.com, or is there any other one where people could just grab you for a meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn as well, so they could definitely message me there, but emailing me, is probably the best way. So from the contact form on my website, or just Georgie@largehope.com. And but the thing that I'm really passionate about right at the moment when it comes to SEO over the last year or so is making sure that making sure that these like family-owned businesses, when they get their website redone, that they don't lose all their traffic and inquiries and like lose their business, because it's something, over the last 10 years that I've been doing SEO, where I've had people come to me nearly at the point of bankruptcy because they had a website redevelopment, 6 months ago, and they've just lost everything. They've had to put staff off, and I'm just like, this shouldn't be happening. Like, this doesn't need to happen. But the thing is, I think that when it comes to web development, SEO, like most of us are self-taught, that there are certain courses and things out there, but the amount of SEO that I learned from that original course that I did was nothing compared to what it actually is. And so I think it just comes down to the fact that people just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to hear that.
And so unfortunately that means that often, when it's the smaller family-based businesses who, often might go to a web developer who maybe hasn't been doing web development for that long, but can create like beautiful looking websites. And they just don't know what they don't know when it comes to SEO. And they think that, you just have to do some redirects, or you just have to put the plugin in there and it'll all be fine. When actually, it can take me anywhere from like 5 to 30 hours to transfer SEO from an old website to a new website. So most web developers aren't going to price that into their job. And also probably 97% of the websites that they do don't need it. So when the 3% comes along, where it's critical, it's like they don't know what they don't know. And so that's why I'm trying to raise awareness about it, particularly with business owners. And I offer this like a free, it only takes me about 5-minute assessment of anyone's website, so that they know exactly where their traffic is coming from before their new site goes live. So I think, like I said, I think 97% of people will be fine, but for that 3%, we want to make sure that, like to give you an example, just say someone gets, 95% of their traffic from Facebook and 5% from Google. Then it's not really going to matter. Like that 5% probably isn't going to be bringing them enough traffic to make a significant difference where they could, think that it was worthwhile to pay $2 or $3 grand to get the SEO transferred. However, if somebody had like 80% of their traffic coming from Google and they're earning like 100 grand a month from their website,
it's a different story.
That's like 80 grand a month that's probably coming from it. And if they lost sort of 20 to 50% of that traffic, they could lose 40 grand a month. It's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was the key concept again, the powerful conversation with you is how we are all held back by what we don't know about ourselves or about our businesses. So again, reaching out, get specialists, get the best team is the next level. And I wanted to ask you, and we will put all your details and whatever you prefer under this video so people can really get to you. And what's your next level jump, or what are you looking to do next in your life, in your business, if you want to share that?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, I've always, I suppose because of like the kind of disaster that I experienced in my life, and in 2011, when there was massive floods in Brisbane where I was living, and I joined what was called the Mud Army and went out to people's homes and helped them basically clean mud out. And ever since then, I was like, I really want to make a difference somehow in like disaster situations. And so but I hadn't really said anything about it to anybody. And it was only in February this year that I was like, right, I think I need to start talking about this. This is something that I really want to do, like, make a difference in these scenarios. And so I did a talk on that. And then like 2 weeks later, like we had these massive floods again, like just absolutely huge. And I was kind of like, I'm not set up to do anything. I can't like help anybody. And I created like a couple of pages on my website that had like all different funding that people could get, and also ways that people could donate, because I thought, well, at least I can do that, because I was kind of in isolation at that time as well. So, I couldn't physically go out and help people either. And then, I was on Facebook and I saw this ad for these dogs that were going to be euthanized in northern New South Wales because of the floods and people having to give up their animals. And I just like immediately filled out like the foster application form, even though I've never had a dog. I was just like, no, this can't happen. And but instead I got sent 3 kittens. And I have 2 cats, so I suppose that made more sense to the people who were sending the animals out. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I love this. And it's kind of around about that time I'd been doing some work with you, and we'd sort of cleared a whole lot of stuff because I'd been feeling like completely exhausted. And these kittens came into my life, and suddenly I kind of this sort of idea or dream came up about what if I could buy like a motel and have like a foster, animal motel. And then in disaster times, people who have animals and have to go to these shelters with their animals could be bused to this motel so that they could actually have the rooms with their animals. But there would be like this enclosure where, where the cats could be, but they'd also have doors that were into all the motel rooms, and people could come and stay there and basically kind of test out the animals to see what they wanted to adopt. But also people could just come because they love the idea of coming to a motel where there's animals, because I did do Airbnb for a while. and I used my 2 cats to kind of market it. And these people came, like 95% of the people that came said, oh, we came because of your cats. We miss that. They were, a lot of them were for overseas, and like, oh, we miss our cats and we love cats so much. And so we decided to come to yours. So I know that people will come just for that. And I thought that would be a way that I can, I suppose, fulfill my dream of wanting to help out in disaster situations, because most of these animals are, basically facing death if people don't foster them. And also help out when there's natural disasters by people being able to come and stay there. So yeah, that's my next dream. And so my SEO business will be funneling money into that. And yeah, at the moment it's a dream concept, but I'm hoping over the next few years that that will become something that I can be raising money for.
Well, I absolutely hear that kind of unlocking potential and getting to your purpose through crisis. That's what it requires sometimes. Other people's crises or our own crises are just getting us more clarity about who we are and what we want. And I love that through the mud and the dramas of the floods, you had this beautiful problem having 2 or 3 cats that really connect you to a much bigger cause and plan to provide space for people, animal lovers, and I believe as well as therapy as well, to have animals around you, and because they are in their natural self, they are not wearing a mask, they don't need to act, they don't need to pick up behaviors that not necessarily serve them.
It's because I've got 8 at the moment, like 8 foster kittens. So they're all in like different rooms, and so one room has 4 of them, and like one of them is like 500 grams. It's like so tiny. And anyway, so when I go into that room, and they all come running, and then like I lie down on the bed and they all get up on the bed, and they're kind of just all crazy, and I'm just like laughing hysterically.
Coming to mama, huh? Mama, the feeder and the provider. And I was just thinking, as one of these last questions, then you have this big project, right? And I know you're drawing up plans. Then who would you need to be as a partner, or someone who could help you in any way of resources, money, or whatever you have in mind? Tell us, what do you want? Sometimes you just need to have that word out, and help just comes from mysterious ways.
I suppose at this point, like, to have conversations with anybody who is like, oh, that sounds cool. Who thinks that they might be able to help in some way. Like I think I'm sort of in the, like, I don't know. So I'm open to, other people's ideas, anyone who kind of connects with that, I suppose, and is like, wow, even if somebody who's like, oh yeah, I'd love to come and stay at a place like that, and this is kind of, what I would like it to have or whatever, or somebody else who's like, oh, I love that idea and I know how to raise money for things, and so I could have ideas around that, or somebody who just has a motel and wants to give it away, like who knows, maybe even there's like a big corporation that needs to give away a motel as a tax write-off. I don't know.
Absolutely. Someone pops in my mind, someone who we know, both a friend or from a group of 6 stars, and he actually got donated a big piece of land to build his dream on top of that, somewhere around the Central Coast. So, well, let's just allow that to happen. If that's what you want, as as the resources that you may need. Is there anything else that you want to share before we go on and finish this interview?
Really just that I'm very grateful for, the 6-star community that we're both part of, to, have met you because I feel like, through the work that we've been doing over the last however many weeks, that stuff it's massively changing for me in so many ways. And you just have this ability to kind of get in there and do whatever you do that it feels like it's giving me, I think I definitely was feeling a bit lost when I came to you around my purpose, because I'd had this idea that I was going to raise loads of money to help people in natural disasters. And that had been sort of sitting in my mind. And then when it all happened, I was like, I don't think that's what's needed. I was like, stuff has changed in the last 10 years. People can raise money in all kinds of ways. Like, I don't think it's the people that really need me. And I kind of felt this sort of like, what am I going to do?
Who am I?
Like, that was my big dream. And now it's like, oh, I don't think that's what's. And so, it was just kind of, I suppose, allowing me to clear stuff so that I could open up to the animals, which,
Wonderful. Moving ahead or taking action does create more clarity for a lot of people. And the real problems are when somebody's sitting, not doing anything, and not finding out what I don't want or what do I want.
Yeah.
That just leads to a miserable, stuck life.
Yeah, it was interesting because of the fact that, like I said, I hadn't really said it to anybody, but once I spoke about it, and then once the disaster happened again, and when I'm sitting here thinking, well, I'm in isolation, I can't go help the people, but then I was like, even thinking about rocking up to people's houses, it made me feel very uncomfortable. As far as like, how am I going to, like, I'm just going to rock up. Do you need money? Like, I don't know. Just everything about what I thought my dream was felt like super uncomfortable. And I was like, no, there's something wrong with this. But now that the kittens have come along, I'm like, I love this. Like, people come to my house because they want to, foster one of the animals, adopt one of the animals. And so they'll come in and they'll sit with them and they see which one kind of gels with them. And I'm like, this is awesome.
Oh, Georgie, it was a really special time to connect with you. And I'm hoping it will resonate with a lot of people who are watching this, because it was a deep conversation. There was important things were said that you mentioned that helped you to move from stuck to become empowered and get, towards the life that you wanted to live back in those crisis times. And also now, there's always this new level of leadership and connecting to purpose. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.